Old video games are always getting re-released and remastered. However, when I hear the phrase old video games, my first thought is the 8-bit and 16-bit era of gaming. I mean, sure, something like the GameCube and PlayStation 2 are technically considered old now, and if you want really old, there's always Atari. Before home console games, there was a focus on quick, simple score-based games, to which the NES shifted that focus to bring in more mini-adventures, which meant worlds could be expanded way more than what Atari did, or as much as they could with the more yet still limited storage for the hardware. So if video games were packed with small adventures due to limited cartridge space, developers had to do something to make your playtime worth it. And how do you make a short game feel longer? Simple, make it harder. These games are really short and can be beaten in under an hour if you know the game well enough. For example, look at Super Mario Bros. It can be beaten in under 10 minutes, and even under 5. Most of the time these games were not forgiving. The way these games were designed was to be mainly for expert players to finish the games. And how can you become a professional? Lots of trial and error, and that means a lot if you have the patience for any of these games. Get used to seeing that game over screen. This was also due to gameplay design from games being different than they are today. In the arcade, games were designed to be easy to understand but hard to master. And the way to master them was to keep paying so you can keep playing. So that's probably why, when it came to home consoles, developers similarly kept that, but at the same time, these old games were really short, and the best way to extend your playtime was to make it difficult, which is why there is usually no saving and limited continues. Now, this difficulty wasn't only an NES thing, it was a generational part of gaming, and it followed into the 16-bit era with the SNES and Sega Genesis. I noticed the gameplay difficulty appeared less after the N64 and PlayStation era in gaming. Due to those being bigger consoles, they could expand their games and have more storage than what was doable before, rather than relying on the difficulty to keep playing. Even though these games are overly difficult and unfair for players, it often feels like you're fighting the game at times. But these games are very important as they showed evolution in gaming. When comparing certain games from the 8-bit NES or Master System to the SNES and Genesis, there is so much growth in the visuals for what video games can become. That's where 16-bit comes in. What does it mean? It basically meant how powerful the systems could be with complex sounds and graphics, but Sega just loved using bits to advertise themselves in the 90s to show that they were superior. Just imagine trying to explain to someone who has never played a video game, asking them why they bought a specific console, only for them to say, "I bought it because it has more bits." It didn't matter for Nintendo to feel behind on bits, because eventually, when the SNES released afterwards, they basically said, "Well, we have the bits too." Apart from difficulty, the art style is what I assume people like about retro games when looking at them. Developers now still continue that pixel art style and often try to mimic what games looked and sounded like before. As new games released in their era, they often tried being cool and flashy. At least they got one of those things. These games are old but consistently get re-released, which shows how important they are. It's fun to see how a game series started and evolved over time. Even though there's always going to be new games coming out, it's nice to know that these old games won't ever be forgotten. These older games don't feel fair when you play them, which might make you think that they're dumb and unfun, but that's not true. There's a reason many people still consider these games as classics. There's a certain charm to it, and at times it's addicting to keep trying to get past the part you were stuck at, and it's rewarding when you do. And if it's too difficult, you can always use save states in any modern re-release of these games. But yeah, these things right here are really fun to pop in a console, just to turn it on, see all those colors, hear all those sounds. People even say that buying used video games is cheaper than buying a brand new one. I wonder how much these old games are going for now. I guess I can't be the only one who really likes old video games, and with these prices going up, I have to buy as many old video games as I can before I run out of time.